Welcome to the Hockey Writers What's Kraken, a weekly show with our top Seattle Kraken writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from the first ever puck drop to their future rivalries, our team covers everything that happens with the Kraken. So sit back, relax, and get ready to find out what's Kraken.
Welcome to the THW What's Kraken show, hosted by Tom Pepper, who's not here today. We'll see him back soon. I'm Sean Raggio. Adam Kierszenblat is here as well. We are presented by the Hockey Writers. We talk Seattle Kraken hockey every week on iHeartRadio, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow the show on Twitter at What's Kraken Show, as well as our personals at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, and at Adam K. Blatt. K. Blatt, how's it hanging? How's your week been?
It's chaos. Let's just put it like that. The hockey world is chaos. Everything on the Pacific Northwest just sucks hockey-wise. So let's just, I guess, get this going. How are you doing?
How's the weather at least? I mean, if the hockey's bad, hopefully it's not raining too.
Well, there's floods in BC because of the rain. Yeah, there are highways that have been deformed, barges that have ended up on beaches. So we're having historically bad weather as well. That is pretty dangerous. So just nothing is very good at the moment.
Yeah, I got hit with some hail the other day, and apparently we had a couple tornadoes touch down, which I didn't realize until a couple days later. So thank God I'm safe. This past Saturday, man, I was at this charity hockey game for Halt ALS. So I heard about this cause on the Missing Curfew podcast. Scotty Upshaw, Shane O'Brien were talking about it. Their buddy Chris Driedger was diagnosed with ALS, and it's to raise funds for treatments and more research into ALS. So it was a great event. The game was fun. Went to see, there was a dinner afterwards. Mark LaBelle of Dirty Honey, which is a solid rock band, played a bunch of covers with, I don't know if you've heard of this guy, Henrik Lundqvist. Henrik Lundqvist is
I've heard of him. He was a okay goalie, I guess.
Well, if he was an okay goalie, he was killing it on Sweet Child of Mine. So, and speaking of goalies, man, let's it's been a day. If you heard our pre-show discussions, we're all over the place. So we're going to start with discussion number 2 as number 1. We're going to talk about goalies. What is going on with Philipp Grubauer, man? Is it time to give Driedger more of a 1B role as opposed to being the backup?
So it's super complicated when it comes to what's going on with Chris Driedger with Philipp Grubauer, because we don't know. Is it that he's playing too much? Is it just changing scenery? But there's something off. There's something wrong. I know that the Kraken's defense has not been all world. Like, they've been problematic. They're giving up a lot of high danger scoring chances, but Grubauer's been the problem. The only thing that he's doing better than average right now is that he's freezing the puck and slowing down play and giving his teammates a chance to rest, which is actually a very important skill that people don't realize. But things like medium danger shots, low danger shots, high danger shots, he's all below average. So I don't know if maybe this is just some sort of adjustment from over the past couple of years, because he was playing behind Colorado, which was a very solid defense. They didn't really give up a lot of chances because they were in the offensive zone a lot. So maybe this is just kind of regression and actual pointing out what Grubauer is as a goaltender when you don't put it behind that elite defense.
Mm-hmm. Fair point. And in my last article, I calculated that between all 3 goaltenders, including Joey Decord, who's now playing in the AHL, they had a .332 goals against average and .873 save percentage. Dude, that's just you can have bad games as goalies, but we knew this team coming in was supposed to be good defensively, but that was just not good. And I think that a lot of it's because Grubauer is completely overplayed. I've also written that I don't think Decord was ready for the NHL. I know he had to be put into that work as a backup when Driedger went down, but you give him a shot. Like, Grubauer had way too much, way too soon for me, in my opinion.
And one other issue is that the Seattle can't do anything. They've invested so much money into these two goaltenders that you can't really trade one of them away or bring in another goaltender, because when you have what is it, over $7 million invested in goaltending, there you can't move that. So these are the two goalies that they are stuck with for the next couple years at the minimum, unless they decide to go buyout option, which would be absolutely stupid at this point. So it's like something you have to figure it out. Maybe it's the goalie coach. Maybe you have to bring in a new goalie coach. Maybe it's the defensive scheme. Maybe it's bringing in, maybe you have to bring in somebody from the outside, like a new set of eyes somewhere as an assistant coach who can help with the goaltend. There has to be some sort of change made. Otherwise, this is going to be a historically bad season.
You know, do you think that maybe, I hear, and I hear you talking about bringing in a new coach. Do you think that could you and I both be overreacting right now? Because it's 15 games into the year, into their entire existence. It's 15 games into their existence right now. So yes, it's looking very bad. I'm not going to say they're going to be the St. Louis Blues of couple years back, but maybe they just haven't found what really does click. Maybe, you see guys, some of them are getting shuffled in and out of the lineup. Carson Soucy and Hayden Fleury seem to be linked. One's in, one's out. Lozon, I think, was a scratch a couple of games ago, which was a little bit out of the norm. Donato's been in and out a couple of times. They just sent down Reilly Sheahan. So I'm thinking maybe they're just still trying to find what clicks. Do you think that we could be overreacting a little bit right now?
Well, I don't know if we're really overreacting, because this is a results-based business. If you're not doing well, people are going to be critical of it. But this Kraken team has underperformed. They were expected to be a lot better. We were expecting guys like Mark Giordano to step up in more of an offensive role. We were expecting guys like Jordan Eberle to lead this offense, from the start. So we can look at it as we are overreacting a little bit here, because this is a brand new franchise and there were going to be hiccups. But remember, there's only 82 games in a season. They're already behind the 8 ball so far that they're going to have to pull off a historic comeback, which we'll talk about in a little bit, to even be considered to make the playoffs. So if you're Seattle and your goal is to make the playoffs in the first season, then we're not overreacting, because they have put themselves so far behind that it looks almost impossible that they're going to come back and salvage this season.
We're talking about playoffs, and I'm going to put a little bit of an asterisk next to how far behind they are, because I think that several teams in this division were counted out. I don't think anyone I don't think the California teams were even a thought. And now the Ducks are one of, if not the hottest team in the NHL. Ryan Getzlaf drinking from the chalice of youth. I think he was second on the team in points as of when I last looked last Sunday night. He had 17 and 16 and only one goal, which is, big team guy right there. So playoffs, man. If you asked me at the start of the year, I had them making it because of the division. Now I don't think they're going to make it. While it's partially because of their division is just turned it around, and they were what I thought was going to be the worst in hockey. Now they might be one of the better divisions. I don't think they're going to make it because of that, let alone their record. I think they'll turn it around and maybe not break even, but they'll be a bit more competitive team as we go on. But are playoffs speak much? Are playoffs realistic for you, or are you kind of riding it with me, on the no playoff train?
So if you do want to learn more about the Ducks, make sure to check out the morning skate from Tuesday, November 16th, because they did have a big, what would you call it? They had a bit of expose on the Ducks, talking about different things like how Ryan Getzlaf is at 999 points now, things like that. So it was pretty cool to read. So make sure to check that out. As for the Kraken, so we did some number crunching here. So right now they're 4-10-1 through 15 games. So that's 9 points. And they got 67 games remaining. Here. So they need 89 points to make the playoffs. So in order to do that, let me go back a little bit. So the last result that we have from an 82 game season was the 2018-2019 season. In that season, the lowest points to make the playoffs was 90, and that was the Colorado Avalanche, which means that I lost my train of thought there for a second.
You're good.
So they need 81 points to make the playoffs here.
Mhm.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So they theoretically need between 35 and 40 wins down the stretch to make the playoffs. Like, how do you this team hasn't shown anything that they can pull off even 35 wins total in the season. So you're putting yourself so far behind the 8 ball here that you need, like, I know St. Louis was on a historic run when they made the playoffs, but this is on another level. Like 35 wins in 67 games for an expansion team that has not really clicked is going to be extremely difficult. And I would argue maybe even impossible at this point, because nothing we've seen has shown that they can pull off, like I said, even 35 wins total in the season.
Yeah. Now, just to hit on Ryan Getzlaf again, I don't remember if it was listening to Missing Curfew or Spittin' Chicklets, another podcast, hockey podcast. I know he was excited to look, he was a free agent going ahead of this year, looking to potentially talk to other teams. Do you think he knew they were going to be good this year? A little captain's right there. I don't know.
Well, I think that there were signs that the Ducks could take a step forward. I think that a lot of people didn't expect Trevor Zegras to step up the way he has. They always had John Gibson, which was the difference maker here. Like, John Gibson is one of the best goaltenders in the league by far. He is going to be on Team USA when it comes to the Olympics. He is playing like a Vezina type goaltender here. So John Gibson has always been there. The problem was that we didn't really know how they were going to be able to generate offense. So they're good, but they don't really have that third and fourth line that can generate offense. But when you have Troy Terry scoring in every single game that you play, or you have guys like Mason McTavish who are stepping up, guys like Trevor Zegras stepping up, Jamie Drysdale has been fantastic on the back end. Kevin Shattenkirk has really taken a step forward. He took a step backwards last year. Cam Fowler, it continues to be a solid defenseman who can contribute. So all of these guys adding together has really made this Ducks team. I don't want to say like they're really good, because I still have my doubts about them because it is early, but they are one of the most solid built teams in the league. So they're making it so that when you go into the Honda Center in Anaheim, it's not going to be an easy cakewalk. They're tough playing, they're physical, they can move the puck well, they don't really get stuck in their zone. And then if they do, they have John Gibson to bail them out. This is exactly kind of what we thought the Kraken were going to be. If that they were going to be this team that was able to transition the puck well. If they got stuck in their zone, Grubauer would be there. So besides the fact that Anaheim is stocked with youth, they're kind of opposites of what we expected. So we kind of thought that Seattle was going to look a little bit like Anaheim, and that Anaheim was going to look a little bit like Seattle.
I like that you talked about their youth there, and I want to take a little jump to the future here. I want to take a little, let's talk about what the future is. I know 15 games into the season, but let's say they don't end up making the playoffs because of how unlikely this looks, or even if they somehow make it in, because who knows what can happen, and they're an early exit. But let's say it doesn't look good by trade deadline. Are we having a fire sale? Are we going to just are we going to try and keep these guys for another year, wait until some of these younger guys get in? Matty, Beniers, Riker Evans, we'll talk about coming up. I think they need to be cognizant of, they still need to field a team. You don't want to trade away a bunch of guys and force people into younger players into roles they're not ready for. I would rather, we brought up Alexander True, we brought up Cole Lind in the past. I don't want to see them. I'd rather get them top line minutes in the AHL. I follow the Rangers closely. They brought guys in way too early. Capo Caco should have never played that first year. They rushed him into it. Lafreniere, I could argue he shouldn't have played last year. And he was probably rushed into it because of their draft status. Granted, Lind and True, those are just my two examples. They aren't high draft picks that are expected to walk right in. But you want these guys to get that adjustment. You want these guys to get top player minutes. And they're not going to get that. So what's the point in hampering someone's development by putting them in a role that you don't even want them to play in the long run when they could be in the role they're supposed to be at in the minor leagues?
Well, it also depends if Seattle is able to bring in not just draft picks, but also assets. Mm-hmm. So if you give up a guy like Kelly Yarncroke or a guy like Marcus Johansson, both of them are UFAs at the end of the season. Are you bringing in, if let's say that Kelly Yarncroke pulls in a second rounder, I'm not 100% sure of what Kelly Yarncroke's, I guess, his value is just yet because he hasn't really produced. But let's say that let's say a team is really desperate and they say, listen, we want Kelly Yarncroke, we'll give you a second rounder. And then you say, well, we want a second rounder and then give us this, I don't know, like 25-year-old prospect who is in the minors. And then that can replace the player in the lineup. So if Seattle is smart, they can keep the prospects that they want to in the minors while acquiring additional assets. Teams are going to be willing to give away. If a team feels that there is a player on your team that will help them and they really, really like this player and they really want them, they will throw in that additional asset. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, competing for a Stanley Cup is more important than missing out because you just didn't want to give up a second line AHLer on top of a deal. So we'll watch and see how that happens. But I do think that if by December Seattle is still at the bottom of the Western Conference, that you will start to see players moving. And a guy like Mark Giordano is a perfect example. I know he's the captain. I know we've talked about how this is a guy who we don't foresee moving, but how many more years does Mark Giordano have? Does he really want to be in Seattle on a rebuilding team when, you can flip him at the deadline and he can go on to try and become a contender somewhere? Does he want to resign in Seattle? I don't know if he wants to go back to Calgary, but does he want to stay on a team that is showing little to no improvement, little to no contender status? So there's that factor as well. If you know that you're going to lose a player, then why not trade him for an asset rather than lose him for nothing?
That's fair. I think that it might just maybe in the eyes of the fans, because of how much the fans have taken a liking and how connected they've become with the Kraken, I think to trade Giordano that's a very damaging, tough look. I understand, and from a business perspective, I completely agree with you. But it also, at his age, I think that if he's going to a cup contender, he's either a 5, 6, or a 7, seventh defenseman, barring injuries. On a healthy lineup, 5, 6, or 7, depending on the makeup of the lineup. So if you're not going to get decent value, I don't know if you want to make, for lack of a better term, sever that connection. If he's going to leave in free agency, he's going to leave in free agency. But to trade away the guy you just named captain for pennies on the dollar, granted, that's with me not knowing, we haven't really discussed his worth in terms of trades, but I think you got to be careful with that. Now, I want to raise you. Should the Kraken take a look, and I don't know how likely this is considering this expansion, could Reilly Smith be a salary dump candidate? Could the Kraken get extra assets by taking on that salary for the rest of the year for when the Kraken, assuming Eichel comes back for the year, they need to move somebody else, the Golden Knights? I think that for several teams, Reilly Smith could be an option. I think his cap hit's $5 million. He's UFA after this year. that's going to be tough to figure out how you're going to fit him back, bringing in Eichel's contract.
Well, Reilly Smith is not moving out of Vegas. Because he's a UFA, they won't move him. They're going to try to move a player that has term because that is more valuable right now. So a guy like Jonathan Marchessault is somebody to watch out for rather than Reilly Smith. Because if you're going to, Vegas knows that they're going to lose. Right now, it looks like Vegas is going to lose Reilly Smith at the end of the year. But in the end, that doesn't help them long term because his money is coming off the books, but they need to get rid of money for next season. So a guy like Jonathan Marchessault gets rid of money for this year and next year, plus a couple extra years. So when it's Vegas, if you're going to talk about, like acquiring a player to take back money, it will be a guy more like Jonathan Marchessault rather than Reilly Smith. Also, Reilly Smith does have a little bit more value because of the positions he plays compared to Jonathan Marchessault. So, that will be, if it is anybody, it will probably be Jonathan Marchessault that Seattle may be able to acquire.
Well, if he's going to be gone next year, no matter what, and they can fit the cap and Eichel with, oh, never mind. Excuse me. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they can't fit the cap. Right now they're over next year. So they have to do something that gets rid of cap this season and next season.
Okay. I was just having trouble. I'm a visual kind of learner. I'm trying to picture the numbers like on a wall. Like if you've seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that Charlie Day meme where he's got all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're about 3 million over. So they need to find a way to get that for next season. So they need to get that 3 million off the books for next season. And that's 3 million over with Reilly Smith gone.
Got you. So, the Kraken are 4-10-1 through 15 games. So clearly the present's pretty painful. So that's why I've been in the future so much. So let's stay in the future and let's talk about some prospects now. You got Matty Beniers crushing it with the absolute wagon. That is the University of Michigan. Oh, I butchered that. 9 goals, 15 points, 16 games. Expected to be a part of the U.S. World Junior team. Riker Evans is crushing it in the WHL. 3 goals and 16 points in 16 games. Third in the WHL in defenseman scoring. Leading the Regina Pats, which is more than Connor Bedard, who's one of the next prodigies coming through. Air quotes around prodigies coming through just because out of respect. Semyon, can you help? Okay, you read this next one for me because I don't want to mess up the name.
Yeah, so 6th rounder out of Russia. I believe you pronounce his name Semyon Vyazoyov, something around that. But this is a goaltender. He's in the MHL, which is kind of the junior. It's kind of like the AHL of the KHL, if I understand it correctly. It's that junior league that a lot of the young players get a chance in before they make the KHL. But he's been absolutely on fire. He's the top goalie in that division. He has the highest save percentage in the league. Right now, he's rocking a 13-4-1 record with a 942 save percentage and a 166 goals against average. I know that you have to take into account that this is the MHL, and the MHL is not the top junior league in the world. It's not considered, if you see those numbers in the KHL at something, the MHL, the talent isn't really there a lot of the time. But for a goaltender to be putting up these numbers is something to watch out for. He's got decent size. He's got decent mobility. I don't know if he is somebody that we're going to see in the future with the Seattle Kraken, because I personally need to see how he does in the KHL. Mm-hmm. If he can pull anything close to this in the KHL, then you have something.
Yeah.
But this is one of those players that you're not going to hear about a lot because he's over in the MHL. There's not a lot of coverage of the MHL, but he is somebody that is really stepping up to the plate and somebody who's been impressive. I don't know if he's going to be considered for Russia's World Junior team. I haven't seen him be considered yet. I haven't seen him be part of any of those rosters that we usually see. They usually have some tournaments beforehand, and players who are going to be on their rosters are participating in those programs. But he's also 18. So to have an 18-year-old goaltender for Russia at the World Juniors is kind of unheard of. So we'll see. This is one guy that we have to watch for his development, and then I think that maybe next year he will have a chance in the KHL. So once he does that, we'll keep an eye on that for sure.
The Kraken are going to be a very, very different looking team by the time he's, even close to being ready to come over. Goalies take even longer to develop than skaters do, let alone, I've noticed that I feel like Russians also spend a little bit more time in the KHL into their early 20s too, which is fine. I think that by that point, earlier on I said that Joey Decord is the future of Kraken goaltending. I think that's still the case because of it might take this kid, 5, 6, 7 years for all we know. By that point, who knows where Grubauer and Driedger is. But I definitely did, those numbers did jump out to me, although with that asterisk of it being the MHL. I'm excited for Riker Evans, Matty Beniers, and there's one other player. I'm forgetting his name. I mean, how big a role do you think, and I know you're hanging tight up there in Canada, but how big a role do you think Matty Beniers is going to play on that World Junior team, considering the rest of the talent that's around him?
Matty Beniers is probably going to be the number one center for that U.S. team. You don't go into a World Juniors having played on the World Championship team and not be a top player on that team. So he's going to be a huge factor in that U.S. team. He's going to be their leader. He's going to be the guy that they look out for, that looks to drive that bus of the U.S. team. And honestly, if he can put up a performance like Trevor Zegras did in the latest World Juniors, that U.S. team is going to challenge for a medal, 100%. And it's probably going to be challenging for that gold medal. They're not the most... They're a good team. They're not the most deep team, but they definitely have a lot of high-end skill. So we'll see how that works out. They got a couple guys like Logan Cooley. That's a name to watch out for. He's part of the U.S. national development team. So we'll see if he's supposed to go high in the draft. We'll see if he gets an opportunity to play with this team. But we have to kind of see what players get loaned to the team as well. But USA is going to be a pretty good team for sure, led by Matty Beniers, who I 100% expect to be either the captain or an assistant captain on that team once December rolls around.
You know what they say, right? Do you know?
What do they say?
USA hockey is do or die, baby.
Now, they're going to have a tough time going up against Canada and Owen Powers, and which I really think that you'll have Shane Wright on that team, but I think that they'll also have Connor Bedard on that World Junior team, which should be interesting to watch. So, yeah, we'll see what's going to happen. I know that Sweden has quite a few good players on their team this coming year. You got teams like Finland that are going to be good. Germany might take a step back because they're losing a lot of their star talent, but this is going to be a pretty exciting tournament, and it gets going in just over a month.
And be sure to stick with the Hockey Writers team for all coverage on that tournament. We got a lot of stuff we're going to be rolling out. It's going to be great. And I just want to jump back one last quick prospect note. I pulled it up. Jacob Melanson. He was the inaugural 5th round selection for the Kraken. And he's 18. He's already overcome 2 shoulder injuries. If he makes his way, I don't have his updated statistics in front of me, so excuse me, but if he makes his way to the Kraken with that story, 18, and he's overcome 2 shoulder injuries, he could become a fan favorite. The fighter within him will resonate with those fans, I think. Just the same way that a Tanev would, and a Colin Blackwell, who not only overcame injury in college, but 2 concussions in college, but overcame injury to be playing now. You have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Well, look, this is going to be a big week for the Seattle Kraken. They got they have to start winning. That's basically what we're saying. They have to find a way to win these next couple games. It's getting desperate, but what we want to see is we just want to see exciting hockey. We don't want to see, them giving up 7 goals. You know, if they're losing 2-1 or 3-2 and those games are competitive, that's a good thing, especially for a team that's I guess not rebuilding, but building in general. But we want to see them competitive. That's all. Like I said, if they don't do well this year and they get into the draft lottery and they get like a top 3 pick, but at least they competed, then fans will be a little bit happier because they know that at least they're going to get some good hockey. Side note, if they do acquire or if they have a chance at acquiring a first round pick, they should, whether it's at the draft or whatever, and that pick is in the top 10, I would highly suggest getting that pick because that could turn into Morgan Geeky's younger brother, Connor Geeky, who is arguably better than Morgan Geeky is. And that way you can just create this ultimate brother team. You got the Flurries and then you got the Geekies. So that's something to watch if you're looking for prospects. If Seattle can pull that off, that would be a great storyline. And he's a fantastic player in the WHL. So why not try to get him?
I think they should just adjust their strategy and just make it a team of brothers. Acquire Chris Tanev, go for both the Kachucks. Man, let's just make this one big happy family.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's gather around the campfire, sing our campfire song, a little kumbaya, and win a Stanley Cup while they're at it.
Yeah, why not? Like, you know what? It worked well for Vancouver with their brothers, so why can't it work well in Seattle for the brothers down there?
And that's about all we're going to say about Vancouver, right, buddy?
Yep.
All right. So first, I just wanted to say a quick shout out to Tom Pepper, our co-host. He's got a university curling competition this weekend, and he's got a practice now that got moved to now, which is why he's not here. So shout out to him. Good luck this weekend, brother. We're pulling for you. And a big thank you to Matthew Zator, our awesome producer. And that's part of the reason why we kept the Vancouver Canucks chat short. Yeah, and big, very important thank you to the fans for tuning into this week's episode of THW What's Kraken. We hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to next week as we'll be breaking down any Seattle Kraken news and rumors that come up over the next few days. Again, make sure to check out our written work at thehockeywriters.com and follow the show on Twitter. We're on Twitter. It's at What's Kraken Show, as well as our personal accounts at Tom Pepper, at Raggio9124, that's me, at Adam K. Blatt, and at Matthew Zator SC. From Tom, who's practicing to get a big dub next weekend. Myself, I'm Sean Adam. This has been THW What's Kraken.